What?
Time for what?
Experience in college.
Time for reinforcement.
Time for liftoff!
Where nothing is impossible unless you think it is impossible.
College.
I have my college scholarship.
Yes.
Boom.
College ran by real fast.
You hung in with the best college.
First time for everything.
Well, what are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for?
Let's do this thing.
Genius, let's do this thing!
So today on the show, we have Coach Nicole Dinas. I've been fortunate enough to have been on many college tours with her for many years. She has been a coach for 17 years at a variety of different programs and schools from K-12 and continues to do that great work. She's actually a nationally award-winning coach as well, too. I'd like to say welcome to the show. Tell me, you were approached about doing college tours with students. What made you interested in doing that?
I thought it would be a really good idea to work with the kids. And when you presented the idea, I jumped on it.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So I think one thing that helped us to really connect really well is, were you able to do college tours when you were in high school?
We never even had the opportunity. It wasn't even something that was brought up to do.
Yeah, because you're a first-generation college graduate, correct?
Yeah, college was not something we talked about a lot. So this definitely shed new light on how you could expose the kids to it. So I thought it was a really good opportunity for them, for my players to go. I had no idea how we were going to fund it, though, but it seemed to work out.
Yeah, and I think the really interesting thing is we started talking about it, planning for it, we started learning about our own little history, how even though we both went to a private school, we didn't get introduced about all the variety of college opportunities, college tours. It was just assumed that it would just get done. And since you're first gen, I'm first gen, it didn't get done.
Nothing did. My parents just weren't involved. They were working, so they relied on the school to do it for us. And I just didn't capitalize on it. I didn't go and see my college counselor, so it just didn't work out that way.
Yeah, and so I think one of the reasons why we have this podcast talking about college tours is to kind of take this, little myth about how college tours are, whether you're first generation or 27th generation. There's a big mystery about how do you set it up, what to do. And I think in all the years experience that we've been doing tours, I think we put a whole package deal about, because college tours is not, like I tell everybody, it shouldn't be about stucco buildings. It should be about the whole experience of the environment. So to give people a little bit of a background, we've done tours in California,
New York, Philadelphia, Boston.
That's right. And let's not forget DC. That's right.
That was the best one.
It was great. The reason why it was the best one, it was because we went to the inauguration for Barack Obama. So it was a nice treat.
Tour.
And so one of the things is for setting up a tour. So I think the main one, a list of colleges, they should look at a range of different schools. I think when you and I were planning it out for a variety of our students, we looked for big, small, medium, highly selective, somewhat selective. Something would probably be on someone's safety or likely list. Affordable, maybe affordable, because we had a range of incomes of students and accessibility too. And then also from urban to suburban, maybe it's like, oh my God, like how do I get to downtown from here? Because I can't see a downtown.
Yeah, you fine-tuned it as we did more tours. You had already done what, Marshall, correct?
Yeah, so for those of you who are just listening to our show, so I have worked at both in the community college, four-year college, but also at public school here in San Francisco, and then also the private school as well.
So you had a good indication of how to plan it, but we gave them an overall cultural experience because we showed them the city, we showed them, the sporting events, we showed them theater, and then we also went on campus. We had lunch on campus. We did all the tours. It was definitely an overall better experience for them to see what the city life was like, or if we were in a more rural area, they could get an idea of what it was like to live there without public transportation, because they're all in the city here in San Francisco. Right. They don't know anything different. So I thought we gave them a very good snapshot of what life would be like on those campuses in those cities. And then you did a great job of planning out, like you said, the stretch schools, the schools that they definitely could get into. I don't know. Tell me a little bit more how you went about that.
Well, the first time I did a college tour, I probably did no different than what everyone is trained or what people see on the website. You go to, so if you're ever interested in visiting a school and you're even in your local area, you just go visit college campus on their website. And I scheduled a tour, and I remember my very first one, it was last centuries, and no admissions presentation because it wasn't clear on the website, and every website will look look a little bit different. And when we scheduled it, that was it. And when I drove up, we didn't know the area really well. So we didn't investigate, is this a good neighborhood, not a neighborhood? Is there safety concerns or not? You know, because I was trusting on another faculty member who took the lead on that. Then we were looking at buildings, but we didn't learn about how to get into the school. Because sometimes a kid and families will hear it more sincerely from the colleges themselves. And then I remember when we left, and every year got a little bit better. Did a tour, then we did an admissions presentation, but it still felt hollow to me because I'm like, that's not just what colleges is stucco buildings. So I deviated a little bit, and how I did that is like, let's do something on the college campus that a kid would do, a theater show, a game. So we would be part of the college culture. We would eat on campus. You're going to eat that food for a few years. You might as well see if you like it as well. And then also connecting with alums, right? So because you've seen the reaction of kids when they've seen alums from past college tours that we've done as well too, right? So what do you think when we've done it together? Because you kind of saw how the college tours were done in the 21st century style, right? Of how was that blended all together, you think, for the students based on other people you've heard that just visit a college camp?
What was most impactful for me was just the fact that, first of all, we had kids that went on the tours with us that actually attended those schools, right? That was,
yes.
We had a handful of kids that went back east or went to Southern California.
That's right.
And they graduated from those campuses. And that says a lot to me that we did something correctly in those tours. But the most impactful for me was the fact that they were able to engage with the kids on campus and just see really how life worked day to day. And I think that is what, they stayed with them. And that's helped them make the decision of where they wanted to apply. So you did an excellent job of planning it, but the planning was intensive. There was so much that went into it, so much that we had to figure out where to go, transportation, just the time of the day. Everything was very difficult. So I thought that it was a smooth transition once we got there.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that everyone uses social media and stuff, but don't forget about searching the search menu on the colleges. So, for example, a lot of people are like, well, how would you know when there's a game or there's a show? Well, there's two ways. You just search it, game schedule or, a calendar of events on every campus website. And sometimes you just pick up a phone, call that department, see what opportunities. The hard thing is about planning ahead. So, if you're listening to this and spring break's coming up, you're having midterm breaks, you want to start planning ahead, even if it's one of your local schools, just so that you could get a sense of medium, large, or small. Because I've noticed through the years, so many kids haven't even looked at local schools just because, not because they're not interested, but so intimidating just to do one, to initiate it.
Yeah, you definitely have to do a roadmap and plan out where you're going to go, what you're going to look for. That's the most important thing. There was a lot of time that was taken by you to call the admissions and get into those meetings and be able to set up time to go to see the campuses. So if people don't do that, they will have the stucco experience, as you say.
And I think one thing is, so a lot of people are like, well, that's lucky for you. All alums, we don't know that many people. But now in the era of LinkedIn, a student could create a LinkedIn account. Yes, I do know it's a job search engine, but if they create just a basic account, don't have to put their resume up, put in a school name on there. Don't press return. Make sure you click on school versus the company of the school. And then when you click on alumni from the college or university, because you put that high school that you, the student, or you, the parent or guardian, where that student's attending, boom, you're going to see a lot of alums. And all those alums were high school students at one point. And I can't tell you how many alums, especially recent young ones, are like, sure, or I could tell you some information about that, or hey, let me tell you about that information. And you could also, especially for the private schools, if you reach out to the admissions office, every private college or university has a regional rep for each high school where if you ask them like, hey, is there any alums from my high school I could speak with, or from the area of the city I'm from, 9 out of 10, they'll hook you up. Now, whether students will be available, and if you get quick reaction, that shows you that's a school about community, caring for you. If not, then that means you got to be the assertive / maybe aggressive student because it's a go campus.
Didn't we hook up with someone at NYU, correct?
Yeah, so it was actually one of your connections. We did at the time of the school that I worked at. We didn't have an alum at NYU, which we do now. Actually, that student actually visited our prospective student. Actually, did get admitted and attended and graduated. Now is a filmmaker. And you had somebody from one of your coworkers' daughters went to NYU. We couldn't, and they were booked for the tour, so she gave an entire tour.
Such a big campus.
Such a big campus. And here was the beautiful thing is she did not just talk about buildings. She actually was saying, so this is how it is at night. This is how about the community. Oh, this is how it is for this classroom. And that was just so eye-opening where it made some students fall in love and some fall out of love of the school. And that's perfect because if you fall out of love of the school, write down your notes why and then avoid those schools. And if there's something that is, yes, like, oh, I love this school, then, then that's something you want to definitely write in and do.
Yeah, definitely take notes after the visit. The likes, the dislikes, pros and cons. It's something you can follow up and read on later on, and then you'll know if it's a good college for you to revisit and consider applying to.
Yeah, and Coach Nicole, since you do love sports for obvious reasons, the title Coach Nicole, one of the things is that you really helped planning was going to a lot of games. Can you talk about the spirit of the kids and how they, some of them never been to Boston or New York or to other areas, and how much they love attending the social events, even though they were on a with chaperones, and
we gave them their free time. I think it was really good for them to see that. It was good for us to see it. It showed you what the community was like. Sporting events give you an insight to the demographic of the area. Some of them had never seen snow, so that was eye-opening for a lot of them. And the sporting events were definitely good, and so were the theater shows. So again, they got the overall cultural experience of what the area was like, and again, what that demographic spoke to in that city. So it just gives you a better way to make a decision if you're going to apply in that area. You've got to like the campus, but you also have to like the location. And that was the goal for us, right?
Well, yeah, it was the goal because a lot of Pacific Coast kids often would say, I've never seen snow, or I don't want to be in the snow. And we never had anyone complain. I remember this one student holding, it looked like a mini iceberg in her hands. I still remember that image of that picture. And they loved it. They were doing snow fights, and it was like, this isn't as bad as I thought it was. Now, keep in mind, there was no cyclone going on at the time, too.
Duration was the coldest.
Yes, it was it -4 or 4 degrees?
Well, we were out there for 8 hours.
Yes. Yeah. And they were still troopers, and they got a sense of the community, too. And so I think that's something that is really important as well. Now, would you say, since, you worked at multiple high schools, and I've worked at multiple high schools, what do you think is the biggest factor that you hear for students not visiting schools?
They just have no indication of what college campus is like. So if they were to go away to school, first of all, they would be in a little bit of a shell shock because most of these kids have never left home. So for them not to visit a campus is a big mistake. I think it's important for them also to go and talk to admissions just to find out what is required of them. That was another thing that was really impactful. Was they get a good idea of what's required, the rigor of the school, the academics. They get to meet with teachers. They get to sit in classrooms. They get to see the size of the classroom. San Diego State's a good example. You have 400 people in a classroom, and then you break out into your lecture halls, and then you go to a small private school, and it's very different. So a lot of the kids don't realize that unless they go on campus with the tours that we did.
No, a lot of times we kind of crash some classes too. Sorry, admission officers who are listening to this. I know that's a no. But when we went to UC San Diego and San Diego State, they're like, whoa, this is actually how big the class is, especially for those intro classes, right? Like intro psych and such. And then when they went to University of San Diego, it's like, oh, this feels like high school. Like this is a classroom setting. I could do with that in the facial expression for everyone too. If you are a student who is maybe don't have the transportation means, like you're in a rural location, if you're listening to this, or where you don't have that venue, well then remember, if you're listening to this podcast, you have something called the internet. So you could see there's things called uvisit.com. A lot of colleges paid opportunities for you to do virtual tours on there, online. It's not the same thing, but you can also go to niche.com, niche.com. If you're like, I want to know what the vibe, it's kind of like a Yelp review for colleges as well. LinkedIn, if you have any alumni from your school and campus. Like we said, we've had even friends of friends who've given us feedback and information. You're not going to tell their life story, but they'll give you 5 minutes of their time too. And also for students from underrepresented backgrounds, there are a lot of schools, Washington U in St. Louis, Whitman College in Walla Walla, Washington, Carleton College in Minnesota. They do fly-in programs. Whether you are a junior, you go and ask, hey, Reed College in Oregon, do you do a fly-in program? They do. And some schools like University of Notre Dame in Indiana or Brown University in Rhode Island, if you get admitted and you come from an underrepresented group, they'll fly you in too. So there is that opportunity to do that. But how you find out is email that rep. Don't let fear be at that 4-letter word for you. Push forward that envelope. And if you are fortunate enough, this podcast is from the Bay Area. For us, Dominican University is a great campus to see that is a small campus for you. Go visit there, even though if you want to go out of the area. If you want to visit, St. Mary's College in Moraga, medium-sized school, a large school like UC Berkeley on there, and I think the big mistake, and we don't do lots of your students for admissions, and our listeners couldn't see this, you were showing me the money signal. Why did you do that?
Well, when you said St. Mary's, you're talking like, what, 50 grand plus. And a lot of the kids that I coach, they can't meet that financial need. I mean, it's extremely expensive. They're lower income. I don't know kids that are upper income that can meet that need. So, you have to really do your homework. What I've learned from you is this is a full-time job. You really have to plan. Otherwise, you will put yourself in a financial hole.
And this is the homework what we're talking about. So the beauty now for students is, and I've had students who parents can pay. Some private schools are $75,000 per year, where they say, well, we could pay, but why did I visit all those schools and I didn't get in? So if you go to niche.com, they have what's called a scattergram. Go look to see if you have a profile that's in range, for that school, right? Nobody should visit all challenge schools or most challenge schools. Get a variety if you're going to go visit. If you're like, wow, this will be such a sacrifice for my family to go visit this school, do that to diversity flying. But also, you and I have had discussions like, should we visit this school that doesn't meet full need if it's a program for students who, let's say financially are at disadvantage? Well, there's a beauty of net price calculator. So at any time, even if you have a middle schooler, so this goes out to the parents and guardians, just put in net price calculator, the name of the college, put in your income information, and then it will give you a projection of how much financial aid that the school can or cannot provide for you. And if you have further questions, let's say you're in a blended family, any parent or guardian can contact the financial aid office ahead of time before you visit, before you apply, so you could get that information ahead of time. And then you could have balance lists, not only admissions, but also for financial aid.
No, it's definitely something you need to do beforehand, so you have an idea of what you're walking into and if it's a viable option for you. So I think finances should be looked at first.
Yeah, so if you need more tips about whether it be admissions or financial aid, and also just about scheduling tours, remember there's these podcasts, but also you go to college4all.com to our website to get information there. You could also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at college4all AMV. Thank you, Coach Nicole, for being a part of this podcast. I've had an amazing time doing tours across the nation. I think we're doing another tour in Ohio. Where else are we going?
Pennsylvania?
Yes, we are going to Pennsylvania. We just did another one not too long ago, Cincinnati, visiting Connecticut College, Trinity College.
Providence.
We visited Providence College.
Boston College,
Clark University. And there's a reason why I'm name dropping, because these are some schools that have some really great endowments, personal opportunities, and they're not the schools that it's 4% admission rate, but it's also schools that can provide a lot of financial opportunities and support to making your dreams possible. Because again, nothing's impossible unless you think it's possible. Thanks, Coach Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your precious day to listen to us. So subscribe so that you could download this podcast wherever you may be, We're on so many different streaming devices, but also you can find out more information about College for All at college4all.com. We're also on Twitter at collegeforall.amv, Instagram collegeforall.amv, and more to come. Thank you and have an amazing day.